Joseph,
What's up, man?
how you doing, man?
I'm always doing great.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Ready to talk about our lovely NCAA bracket second chance. I think these things they need to create a
Oh,
third chance, a fourth
yeah.
chance, and a fifth chance. Man, it was rough. But you know what? Some really great games that we're gonna recap. Pick our final four again, winners that's in it right now, and then go into some MLB talks. As the season got started last week, and it's my Yankees are off to a hot start, so I'm really excited about that. Representing, of course, obviously. So yeah, let's get into the NCAA, man. So let's do this recap. Tell me your surprises. Tell me your disappointments, man.
Yeah, disappointments, easily Duke. Duke and Iowa
Hmm.
State.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess on the flip side of that, the surprise to me has to be NC State.
NC State, yeah.
And Clemson to a certain extent as
Mm-hmm.
well. I didn't necessarily think that Clemson was going to get past Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hung in for a little bit against Bama. So
Yeah.
but yeah, easily Duke and Iowa State is the disappointments. I was real big on Iowa State coming to this
You
tournament.
were.
I thought
Yeah.
of all the teams, they were the one to give UConn the best run for their money, and they didn't even get
Mm.
to meet UConn, so we'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Duke, I don't know. Like there was no doubt in my mind that they would get past NC State. I was like, no way you let NC State beat you twice within less than a month.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, man, like they just looked lost and couldn't keep up. And I don't know, bye bye Blue Devils. So
Yeah.
really, really interesting Final Four. You only really have one true blue blood in UConn,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is up for grabs. So
Yeah. 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 Hey, I'm with you. This is definitely probably one of our going to be one of our shortest conversations because we both. I mean, we're just about to going to say the same thing. I mean, you know, and the whole Duke situation, man. I mean, it really because I keep forgetting the kid's name. The
Filipowski.
no for
Huh?
Houston, the one that got hurt.
Oh, Jamal Sheed.
Sheed, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, Jamal Sheed, yeah. And you know when Jamal Sheed got hurt, and then Duke won, it was just like,
Yeah.
oh, did Duke win because they would just outplayed Houston, or did was the injury that big of an impact? And I must say that I think that it was more of the injury than anything because the way that Duke looked against NC State. I mean, in the beginning, the first half, I mean, it was looking promising. And then
Mhm.
NC State, they just turned it around, dude. It was really remarkable to see uh um like a team like that, just how well they played together, and man, how big of a DJ Burns Jr.
Yeah.
like this. I mean, he's like that's what the NCAA tournament
Yeah.
is about to me. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just so remarkable to see this kid play, just play after play. He was, I mean, just attacking the rim. There was this dude finished with 29 points. And he, even going through the free throw line, this big dude was shooting like, like just netting it in, no worries at all. I did, say on our last podcast how I thought Duke was going to get revenge, and probably they learned the lesson
Yeah.
from
The ACC
from
tournament.
yes, the tournament, and Duke wasn't going to allow this to happen again. But I mean, it just if you just look at that game, I mean, it ended 27-21 in the first half, and the second half, NC State um outscored them by like 20 something points. Like it was like 55 to like 30 something points, and it's like they just dominated Duke in the second half. And again, what you would think with the experience that Duke has, and that they're not strangers to the tournament. They're not strangers to winning or being at the top. To see them play that way, it was kind of, you know what, it wasn't that shocking, but it was a little shocking. And they're still a young team. I think they have a lot of great prospects for next year. That I think this was just probably just a taste. And a lot is gonna happen, for them in a couple of years, I think. But right now, NC State, like, now I'm rooting for NC State. Like, I hope
Oh
they go
yeah,
past
me
Purdue.
too.
You know what I'm
Totally.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of the four left, yeah, I would
you,
totally love to see NC State win.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah, you were pretty much right. So NC State outscored them 55-37 in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just kind of a beat down.
Yeah. And then same. I mean, the Iowa State. I mean, you were high on them. I was rolling with it, and I thought they did have it. And it was such a close game. And then for Illinois to get past them and then go to UConn, and that UConn game. I mean, it wasn't like the first half. The first, I keep saying half because I got to get used to saying half. I want to say the first quarter, but the
Yeah.
first half, they was with there with UConn,
Yeah,
and then
I mean,
UConn
it was
just
28-23 at halftime. And
yeah,
then
and
UConn went on a 30-0 run.
nothing run. Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How do you not score at least 2 points?
In that span, yeah. Yeah,
And
it
it
was
wasn't
crazy.
even like Illinois had some good looks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they just weren't hitting them. That was one was just nuts too, because I mean Illinois went into that game with a lot of confidence because like us, a lot of people didn't pick Illinois to get past Iowa State. I mean, again, Iowa State had the #1 defense in all the NCAA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Illinois, I mean, credit to Illinois, they played probably the perfect game because they just bulldozed them at the beginning and jumped out to almost a 20-point lead, which, I mean, that ultimately saved them because, to your point, that game ended, Illinois only won 72-69. Iowa State outscored them 43-36 in the second half.
Yeah.
So without that huge lead in the first half, Iowa State probably wins that game.
Yeah.
So Illinois did the right game plan.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they were going into that UConn game with so much confidence. They all their players started going with the mantra of like, well, why not us?
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, I don't know what happened. Like,
yeah,
it didn't make any sense because again, it was 28-23 at halftime.
Yeah, and then
You're
all
still
of a
very
sudden,
much in this game, and it's like Illinois just okay. I guess we're done.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to your Houston point. I agree with you. I think Houston would have won that game if Jamal didn't get injured. Because they still almost did.
Yeah.
And I guess obviously hindsight's 2020. Maybe that should have kind of been a foreshadowing of the NC State. But I mean, Houston's a good team. They were a #1 seed for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all Jamal, so I mean, it's not unreasonable to me that they kept it close.
Yeah.
So I still thought Duke, again, going in with a lot of momentum. I still thought they had it against NC State, but credit to NC State, and kind of as expected, now all the talk is the '83 NC State team and Jimmy V, and to this day, they're the lowest seed to ever win the tournament.
Yeah.
They won it as an 8 seed, I think, an 8 or a 9 seed. I'll have to fact check that in a little bit. But kind of the same thing though, which is crazy because in order to even make that tournament, they had to win the ACC tournament. But they had no shot getting an at-large bid in '83. Same deal here. Like, there was no way NC State was making that tournament without winning the ACC tournament, and
and they did.
And they did, and they're just full train ahead. So
then the next question is, will that record be broken this year? Can NC State pull off the unthinkable and take down the number one Purdue.
I mean, at this point, anything's possible.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, at this point, like once you get to the, it's like Loyola of Chicago making it in 2018 as a 12 seed. Once you make it to the Final Four, you shouldn't be surprised if they win. So it's possible. Is it gonna happen? I'll reveal that in a few minutes. I think the other question is, if they do, is it the greatest NCAA tournament run ever?
Yeah.
Not
even
just
tournament, just like, getting to this point. Yeah.
Like, is it the greatest, I guess, championship run ever? And not even just because they're an 11th seed, but again, because they had a losing record in the ACC play. And like to do what they had to do to get to this point, I think a culmination of that is just pretty unbelievable. So, I mean, I would, for me, it would definitely be the greatest basketball NCAA championship win ever. I don't know about all sports, but I would say definitely at least for probably college sports, definitely the greatest championship run ever. If they do it. So
yeah. And I mean, so yeah, that was, I mean, everything is true. We literally talked about, UConn, Iowa State, Duke, NC State. We're talking about all these teams, but we haven't mentioned Alabama yet, who you were also high on. I mean, you can't knock out now. Can they, duke it out with UConn and do the impossible essentially? And anything is possible, but it's UConn. But getting to this point, Alabama has looked really good.
Alabama has looked good. And yes, I did pick them to beat UNC. But I mean, I was pretty upfront. That was more, to me, I just didn't believe in UNC. I've been pretty consistent in saying, to me, they were the weakest one seed. You saw some cracks against Michigan State. And I think Alabama, after bowing out in the Sweet 16 last year as the number one overall seed in the tournament, just not the one seed, bowing out to San Diego State, I think that was pretty embarrassing for them. And I didn't, just like how, well, it's not quite as extreme, just like with Purdue losing as the one seed last year to a 16 seed, there really wasn't a doubt in my mind that they wouldn't at least make it to the Sweet 16. Kind of same thing with Alabama. I thought they would have a decent run this year. I will say I think they got a little bit of a lucky draw going up against Clemson and not Arizona. I don't know. I mean, would they have been able to beat Arizona? Absolutely. I think of those two opponents, that's probably the one that they were a little more happy to see was Clemson.
Yeah.
With all that being said, though, they're about to hit a juggernaut. And they have never been here before, and UConn has. And to me, that's going to play a huge part in this.
Yeah.
So they should be proud of what they did.
Yeah, to be at this point, yeah.
And if they pull it off, kudos to them. It would be real interesting to see Alabama win a national championship that's not in football. And while that conversation starts, maybe now with Saban retiring and I don't know, maybe they become a basketball school. But I'm impressed with them.
Yeah.
I think their bracket, they had a lot of breaks that went their way. And I mean, now, we'll see on Saturday. I mean,
so let's talk about Saturday. So I mean, we've talked about all the teams, and I added. So you know what? Let's start with the UConn Alabama game. We can sit here and hope for a Cinderella story, but I think we both think that UConn is gonna, what was the stat you gave last week? When was the last time there was a repeat?
06, so
06? Okay.
06 to 07. So the tournament in 06, the Gators won, and they won it again in 07.
Okay. Yeah. So, we've talked as soon as the season started. One of the things that obviously we talked about UConn, and we talked about, how hard it is to repeat. But watching them play, they don't look like it's hard to do it. UConn seems destined to do this again. Obviously because we won. We were so high on Iowa State, and we wanted to see, I don't think we were against the repeat. We just know how hard it is because of how long it's been. And then we've been seeing how the other teams have been playing again, like the Iowa States and the Illinois, that we didn't think that UConn would be in the Final Four again, and here they are. And so again, to just repeat myself is they just look like they're destined to win again. Am I wrong about that?
No, everything you say is correct. This is by far, listen, I'll be the first to say, I repeated that mantra. I did not think that they would even make it to the Final Four. Not just because of how hard it is to repeat, but also the region that they got put in. Which that's another interesting talking point, is when the bracket first released, they're the number 1 overall seed. So theoretically, being the number 1 overall seed, you get to play closer to home. But there's kind of this idea that you're going to get somewhat of a beneficial region. Like maybe your 2 seed's not as tough, and maybe your 3 seed isn't as tough, etc. They got what, by all accounts, including myself, got the hardest region. They got the 2 seed Iowa State that was coming in piping hot. They had a 3 seed Iowa State, Illinois, and Auburn were all in their region. All 3 of those teams won their conference tournaments. So they were all coming in blazing. So that was another big reason I looked at them like, that is tough, because they're going to have to see at least 2 of those teams probably. Now, did they get a lucky break with Auburn losing to Yale? Maybe, but based on everything I've seen, I don't think Auburn stood a chance if they had to meet UConn.
Yeah.
I don't think Iowa State stood a chance. So
Alabama doesn't stand a chance.
Again, I can't contradict myself. Like you asked me with NC State, anything's possible, but there's just nothing. If any of the games that UConn had played so far, if any of them stayed close, maybe. But they went on a 30-0 run against a top 10 defensive team.
Yeah.
I cannot. The only team that I think would even stand a shot, and I wouldn't be mad if it happened, because I actually do think of all the both of, you already have to the 2 matchups set. Monday would be the national championship. Of all the possible national championships, I think this one would be the most entertaining. Would be UConn against Purdue, because you've got Zach Edey against Donovan Clingan, which I think would be a tough matchup for both. I think they would go at each other, and they would play pretty tough. So I agree with you. I wouldn't be mad if UConn repeats, and I never really would have been mad. I just want a good national championship if they make it there. I don't want another blowout. So
yeah, I agree. But I think UConn is destined to be back in the championship game, I think, and will they win? Who knows? we'll actually talk about that in a few seconds. But now jumping over to NC State and Purdue. And let's be clear, we're both picking UConn, even though we are.
Yes, yeah. UConn. I mean, I cannot pick.
Yeah. And then
If Alabama does it, cool. More power to them.
For sure.
But it's
for sure. So yeah, and then NC State and Purdue. So this one again. This one for me. So NC State. That is a story. Purdue. We know what happened last year. We talked about it, and now they've been playing like they have a chip on their shoulder, and they've been playing really good. This one is for me is a tough pick. It really is. Again, with what having I think the big matchup is Zach Edey versus DJ.
Yep. For sure.
And you know, whoever wins that battle wins the game. I just think I think Purdue and Zach are just ready to get to that point. I picked Purdue to win the whole thing in my originally bracket, and I think I'm gonna stick with it. And I love the NC State story. I want to see them go all the way. I want to see them do this, but is this moment too big for them? Like, and I don't know if it is, because I mean they played against Duke, who is one of the most known college schools in the nation, and so all eyes was on them, and they welcomed that challenge and stepped up to that challenge, and they won. So why couldn't they do the same with Purdue? I don't know. I'm just, again, this is one of those coin flip things. But at the end of the day, I am going to take Purdue because, again, last year with that chip on their shoulder, I just think that they're going to come out and get. I see a Purdue UConn Final Four, but I would love this. Let the record show. I would love to see NC State just because of the story. Records are meant to be broken. That 8 or 9. Who was the team you mentioned earlier? The highest seed to win.
It was NC State.
Oh, it was NC State. Okay.
Yeah, it was the 83 NC State team. Now that's tied with the 85 Villanova team.
Okay. And so I would love to see that record broken and see NC State do it again. That would be super cool. I just don't, I see Purdue versus UConn in a championship game.
We'll just back checking myself real fast. But oh, yep. See, this is why I fact checked myself. So the NC State team was actually a 6 seed.
Okay.
Now at the time it was the lowest, or I guess technically the highest seed to win. But then it was broken 2 years after that with Villanova, who won it as an 8 seed. So yeah, but again, I think that 83 story was just still amazing because of how they had to do it.
Yeah.
Like they had to win their ACC tournament. It's eerily similar to what's happening with this NC State team this year. So yeah, you made a lot of good points. I love the one where you talked about it. This matchup's really interesting because both storylines are juicy. Because you got NC State, double-digit seed, had to win the ACC tournament, is on an insane winning streak right now. But then you also have Purdue, who lost as a 1 seed last year.
Yeah.
Right? And has just been on a redemption tour all season, all tournament. I mean, if it wasn't for UConn, everybody should be talking about how dominant Purdue is. Purdue, in my opinion, had the harder Elite Eight opponent in Tennessee. And, Tennessee did their best and they kept up. But Purdue, they shut them down. They were going up against Dalton Connect, who I believe Zach Edey led the NCAA with points. I think Dalton Connect was number 2. So, I mean, that was a tough matchup for Purdue. And, close or not, they did it. They finished it off.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to be mad on either team winning.
Yeah.
My heart, I think, wants NC State just because I think that at the end of the day, that is a cooler story. And eventually, I want to see a double-digit. Listen, at some point, a double-digit seed is going to win the tournament. It's going to happen. Just like at some point, a 16 seed was going to beat a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Is it this year? I don't know, but I do want to see that happen. Again, I'm just going to go back to my concern is if NC State does win, can they even hang in against UConn? Every part of me tells me the only team that has a prayer against UConn is Purdue. So I feel like from an entertainment perspective, that is the national championship you want.
Yeah.
And that would also be an interesting story in itself. You have a team that can repeat versus a team that came all the way back from losing to a 16 seed and mimics what UVA did in 2019.
So if Purdue, if you think that Purdue is the team that can go like be side by side with UConn and NC State beats Purdue, wouldn't that mean that NC State can hang with UConn? If they can beat Purdue, the team that you think.
I understand your logic. I see how you get there. I think at that point, the wins and the gauntlet that NC State went through, I think if they do beat Purdue, it takes everything out of them.
I see what you're saying.
To where and I think UConn's going to comfortably beat Alabama. And I personally think, listen, UConn's going to say if that matchup happens, UConn's going to say the right stuff. They're going to say they respect NC State and you can't take any opponent lightly and all that. But I think deep down, they know the team they don't want to meet is Purdue.
Yeah.
I don't think they're scared of NC State. And with that, again, is it possible? Of course it's possible. it's like last year with San Diego State. Again, FAU was a 9 seed. So, as San Diego State had to go into overtime, had that crazy win against FAU, and everyone's like, okay, they beat the number 1 seed Alabama. They beat San Diego State. They did all this to get to that national championship game. I think most people still picked UConn, but there were people that are like, San Diego State can do this. And then they just got mollywopped. I think you would see something similar with NC State. So, and then one last point about the NC State Purdue matchup. I agree with you. The matchup to watch is obviously Edey against Burns. But an under the radar one that I think would also be very interesting would be DJ Horn against oh my gosh, I just had the guy's name. They're both guards. So DJ Horn is the NC State guard. He's one of the ones they interviewed after the game. It was basically saying this isn't surprise us. Braden Smith.
Brandon Smith. Yeah.
Braden Smith. Yeah.
Braden Smith. There you go.
I think that matchup can be very interesting. And I think when it comes down to it, again, all the attention's going to be about Edey and Burns, but I think that matchup and how Horn and Smith can shoot the 3 ball will turn the tide of that game. So we'll see. I definitely think that I would be shocked if that wasn't the more entertaining of the 2 games. Hopefully both games are close and both games are good. It's just hard for me to see Alabama being able to hang with UConn for 2 full halves. Maybe 1, but 2 full halves.
And so you got UConn and Purdue?
I will take Purdue.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going to take... If it was another team... I know I've been saying this a lot throughout the tournament, but if it was another team that wasn't Purdue, if they had to meet another random 1 seed, or if it was another 2 seed, or like any other team other than Purdue, maybe I would take NC State. I think Purdue also has a good storyline going for them. And I think they want this real bad. So
cool. Well, we shall see what happens on our
well, who do we think's gonna
Oh, sorry.
we both have UConn and Purdue, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's hard to You know what? I'm going to do it. I think Purdue wins. I'm just picking Purdue. I mean, who? I just don't. Because it's easy to go UConn because of what we've been seeing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't know who, like, who's standing toe to toe with UConn. I mean, like you said, Purdue is probably the closest thing that can do it. So, why not go for the, staying with a point that is hard to repeat? Why not go for Purdue?
Yeah, and I'm actually also going to pick Purdue.
Okay.
I think Purdue wants it more at the end of the day. I mean, look, UConn wants it, but once they finally, again, I know it's not necessarily a fair reference. I'll keep referencing it 2019. I mean, once the University of Virginia made that national championship game, obviously my heart wanted the Red Raiders, pew pew, and we came very close, and we got ripped off in overtime because that ball didn't come off us. No big deal. Whatever. No big deal. But I once they get to that national championship game, I don't think anything stops Purdue. I think Zach Edey will ball out. And yeah, they'll cut the nets down. I think UConn's gonna play up the storyline of they're the enemies because I think most of the country will want Purdue. I think they'll lean into that kind of being the evil empire, but it won't be enough. I think the Boilermakers gonna cut those nets down in Phoenix.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that the only thing I can think off the top of my head is that the one thing that Purdue has over UConn is just the height. Like, they have big guys. I mean, from again, we know Zach Edey. He's like what 7'5", 7'3", whatever. Like, he's something ridiculous. They have a backup of Will Berg, who's like 7'2", Caleb First, who's about the same size. Like, they have these kids that are just stocking. If they could take it to the hole, block out UConn, get rebounds, I think it's really possible. I think that's the one thing that's been missing throughout the tournament for UConn, with that, that ability to just, get the offensive rebound, bring it to the hole, or just go to the hole, go strong. I think Purdue can do that. I mean, UConn do got what's the kid name? Tall. I mean,
yeah.
it's gonna
So
sound
Donovan
wrong, but
Clingan,
tall black kid.
I don't know. I'm thinking of Donovan Clingan.
Okay. Yeah, he's their center.
He's just he's 7'2", and then Edey's 7'4".
Okay.
So Edey still does have 2 inches over him.
Yeah.
Let me see who you're talking about.
Tall black kid. He's like.
So you have Tristan Newton.
He has like one of those unique names.
Well, you have
let me see. Hold on.
You might. Yeah, I mean, Tristan Newton's the big one. They had a guy last year, but he got drafted to the Bulls.
Here we Yusef.
Oh,
Yusuf Singari. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Sorry if I butcher his name. But he's like a backup center to Donovan.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
I mean,
mean,
but again, it's just that height that they have. That's all. I mean, he's not doing much in the tournament, but I'm just saying like the height difference that Purdue makes if they take it to the hole, if they dominate the inside, I think that's the key to victory right there for Purdue. If they don't utilize their height and the inside, then UConn is just going to run away with it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, but so I'm gonna go with Purdue with this one. I'm gonna go with Purdue. I think they win this year. So because I'm sticking with my original pick. That's who I picked to win it all the way and our first when the tournament started. So I'll finish with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go UConn too.
You mean Purdue?
Purdue. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was searching up UConn.
Okay.
Slip of the tongue. Yeah, I'm gonna go Purdue. Now, what is interesting is that if UConn does win, that'll be 5 national championships in this century. It'll be 5 overall. Because they won in 2004, they won in 2011, they won in 2014. By the way, their 2014 one, they won as a 7 seed, which is pretty interesting. And then they won obviously last year. So if UConn does win, I mean, just for the heck of it, I mean, are they like? Do you start talking about UConn as like in the same vein that you talk about the Duke program, or the UNC program, or the UCLA? I mean, not anymore, but what UCLA used to be.
I mean,
it's an elite basketball program,
no,
right?
it is, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't. When I hear UConn, the first thing, and this is gonna sound crazy because we barely talk about it, but the first thing I think about is women's basketball, not the men's, because they were so dominant. The women's basketball team.
Yeah, I mean,
was
the
so
women's
dominant.
basketball team.
Yeah, and they're still in it right now. So they've just been so dominant that sometimes you just forget about the men's basketball team. But yeah, I mean, with these stats, how can you not think about them as
to put it in another
team?
perspective, the Duke Blue Devils right now have 5 national champions. So they will tie with Duke because Duke won in 91, 92, 01, 2010, and 2015.
15, yeah.
So they'll tie with Duke. And then UNC, just for the heck of it. UNC has 6, but keep this in mind. One of those they won in 57, and one of those they won in 82. And then they won in 93, 05, 09, and 17.
Okay.
So, I mean, UConn's are way more recent, which I think plays a factor into it. I agree with you. I mean, when I think UConn basketball, I definitely think the women's team first, just because, I mean, they pretty much owned the early to mid 2000s. I mean, yeah, but I think the men's team.
I mean, that's
you got to start looking at that program as a true blue blood. So.
Yeah, that's another conversation for another day because we could go down that pipeline. But we'll see what happens. Like we said on the next episode, we definitely reveal who won that game. So that is a wrap up for our NCAA tournament talk. Switching gears over to MLB, the first time we are talking about Major League Baseball this season of Socratic Sports, as the season kicked off, the 2024 season kicked off last week. I don't know if you've been following, Joseph, but obviously me being a huge Yankees fan, I've been following my boys, been following, they give you like the free MLB TV thing, to start the season. So I've been catching some of the games. And so so far, I mean, obviously my boys, the Yankees look great, super happy with bringing Juan Soto on. The only thing is Garrett Cole is out. He's going to be out probably for like a month. Then reevaluated him. I think he had something with an elbow issue, maybe. And I think, but it's nothing serious. I think they, giving him some rest. Yeah, they're starting off hot. Obviously the Dodgers with the big signing of Shohei Ohtani.
And then the pitcher too.
And then that pitcher from Japan, yeah. So they
who had a disastrous first ever start, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
His first start was really bad, but
yeah,
he's somewhat rebound.
Yeah. So Dodgers looking good. Right now, the start of the season, Pirates are looking good.
So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna share the screen because
Okay.
I think looking at the standings and stuff will just kind of help us stay.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll be good to give us something to look at.
Cool.
You see it?
Yep.
Sweet. All right.
Thanks for
So
that.
got standings up. Yeah, exactly what you said. Your Yankees looking great. Oh, Detroit lost today, so that's their first loss.
Yeah.
Pirates. I'll get back to the Pirates in a little bit, kind of my feelings on them. And then the Dodgers. So yeah, I mean, aside from those teams, everybody else, again, it's so early on.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I feel very confident saying is I think the Athletics are going to unfortunately have another abysmal season.
Yeah.
This one shocked me a little bit. The Marlins being 0-8.
Why is that?
Because I honestly thought the Marlins, again, it's super early. Anything can change.
Yeah.
But they finished last season pretty decently. I mean, they've been rebuilding for a long time. Like, it should start paying dividends at this point, in my opinion. And
I mean, if you follow, I mean, not necessarily because again, they brought in Derek Jeter to try to switch it around. Derek Jeter made some moves, made some trades. They try to get some, like for example, the Juan Carlos Stanton to the Yankees. They got some draft picks for them. They made some other trades. I forgot who got a couple of draft picks, but these aren't draft picks that's like number one picks. I mean, essentially, what they tried to do was take away the payroll of some of these some of these players that they were paying to lower it. And if a team is going to take on this payroll, they're not going to give you like a number one pick in return, So I think they was trying to restart their roster, but they're not drafting, or there isn't someone on their roster right now where you can say, okay, this dude is a star, or they have like these, they're surrounded by these, great players right now, which I just.
Sorry to interrupt. Who was the guy that ended up on the cover of the show a couple years ago? Is it Jazz Chisholm?
Yeah, Jazz Chisholm. Yep, Jazz Chisholm Jr. Yeah, he was on the show, the cover of the show. He's their center fielder. He's a good kid, left-handed. But I mean, he's just like that role player. He's not like a star player, but so let me rephrase that. He's the star player for the Marlins. If he went anywhere else, he'll be a good pick that's surrounded by good players, and he'll make a good impact. If I'm not mistaken, he's their leadoff hitter. So, he's fast, get on base. But if he gets on base, then they need somebody behind him to bring him in. And they just don't, for me, from what I've seen, like in their depth chart and what they have, I just don't think they're good enough. Yeah. I mean, so, and I'll use my boys as an example. I'll use the Yankees as an example. If you look
I didn't realize they had Tim Anderson.
Yeah, they have Tim Anderson Jr., which again, the last thing he was known for was getting punched in the face by Ramirez, trying to start a fight with him. So, I mean, but again, like I said, to use my boys, the Yankees. I mean, when we made a lot of trades and exchanges or whatever it was during the offseason, we did a lot of things that involved draft players, like to get draft picks, and we had a good AAA team. We had good players, and we brought those players up. Yankees fans are a little impatient where they want to win every year, like that old George Steinbrenner thinking like we have to win this year, pay as much as you want. But I think we reshaped our farm system where we were molding these players, and now we're paying off for it because we're bringing a lot of these players on. And so when you look at like a player like Jose, Austin Wells, who's a catcher. You know, he's a young catcher, back up to Jose Trevino. If you look at Oswaldo Cabrera, if you look at Gleyber Torres, Anthony Volpe, like we have these young players like Volpe. I think it's like 20 something
22.
years. Yeah,
You see, I have their depth chart
yeah,
for their roster pulled up.
And so when you have these players on here, and then obviously Aaron Jones, we have him locked in. Like these are a
Aaron
lot.
Judge.
Aaron Judge, sorry, and then Juan Soto, who we just got, and Juan Soto is only 25 years old. Like we have these superstars.
I forget how young he is.
Yeah, we have these, but minus Juan Soto, like Aaron Judge was in our farm system. Volpe was in our farm system. Torres was in our farm system. Like all these kids came up because we our drafting and then our position in the draft was able to get players like this. But if you look at the Marlins, they wasn't in a position to get players like this. And so this is why I can see that what their record is, and so I'm not surprised at all by the Marlins, where they at right now. I don't see anything coming from them. So say Houston. So that's a surprise for me too. I would expect them to get off to a better start, but they just they haven't been gelling yet. And I hope it continues to be like that because I hate the Astros. But I mean, they still got their core of Bregman, Altuve, Alvarez, and so
Pena.
I think they Pena, yeah. I mean, they still have them. They just haven't been gelling yet. So
Tucker's still there.
Yeah, and I mean, their pitching staff is okay. I mean, I don't think they.
I mean, Blanco did just throw a no-hitter.
Yeah, he did. I mean, but
I feel like that has been one of the earliest no-hitters in the MLB season.
Yeah, it's early in the season. Like I'm not going crazy over that. And so again, we it's just early in the season, so we could definitely talk about right now who we think could take each division. If you want to pull up the what you call.
Yep,
and
right
so
here, it's back up.
Yeah, so if we'll start with the East for sure. Boston is 5-2. I mean, beginning of the year, but I don't see them sustaining that. I don't think they have anybody on that roster. I think it's going to be complete differently than it was last year. I think the Yankees are going to run away with this division. Not only because me being a fan, I want them to, but I think when it comes down to overall performance of pitching and the roster, that the Yankees are geared to do something big this year. I think Juan Soto is an MVP candidate for me, and I think this year when he's playing, I think when we see how effective and him winning and how comfortable he's going to be with this organization for the next year, like I'm talking, and I'm saying all this because I think he's going to resign with us. I think it's going to be one of those long-term record-breaking, to just keep him with us until he's ready to retire kind of thing. I definitely see him retiring as a Yankee. I could be totally wrong here, but I think if we continue this pace of winning and playing, he's just gelling so well with Judge and the team members, and he's just playing so hard. If you watch the first couple of games, it's been truly amazing to see. I'm super excited about this season. Hoping we win 28 this year. So yeah, I definitely have the Yankees in the East.
Okay. So I agree with you with the Red Sox. I don't think the Red Sox sustain. And I actually think the Blue Jays are going to turn it on a little bit and end up making a decent run at the division. I don't know about Tampa. Tampa's one of those teams where it's like I feel like it had to happen the past few years. I feel like they had their time where they had a shot. Then you have all that Wander Franco stuff going on, and I think Tampa will finish above Boston, but I don't expect much from Tampa. So, you've already talked about your boys a lot.
Yeah.
So that leaves one other team in this division, the Orioles.
Mm.
I think the Baltimore Orioles will win this division.
Okay.
I'm going with the Orioles. I think last year was not a fluke.
Yeah.
You want to talk about teams that have drafted and built that they are a team to look at.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Gunnar Henderson is a stud. I think Rutschman is a stud. More importantly, I love that they picked up Corbin Burns, who I think should be considered a Cy Young candidate. So yeah, they have Craig Kimbrell. I think this has been a very patient team. James McCann can be a good catcher. So I'm going with the Orioles. I think Austin Hayes. I think the Orioles are gonna take the East this year, and I think it's gonna be very close. I think it'll come right down to September. But they would be my pick.
Okay.
So that brings us to the Central.
Yeah, the Central. So I like the Guardians.
Okay.
I think I think this is going to be one of those divisions where again, if you remove Minnesota, I think this is Detroit is playing good in the beginning of the season, but again, I think Detroit is Detroit. I just don't see them. Just like I said about Boston, same thing with Detroit. I don't see them sustaining this. I think Cleveland run away with the Central. Now anything can happen, like we always say. A team like Minnesota can come and sneak up and do some great things. But I mean, with Jose Ramirez leading that charge, they have a really stellar offense, good pitching. So I'm rolling with the Guardians, even though I hate saying the Guardians and saying that name because I want to say what you call what is it, Indians. But and the only reason I mentioned Minnesota is because they got Carlos Carrera. They have a really good pitching staff. Pablo Lopez is a good pitcher. Joe Ryan is a good pitcher. Like they have some really good pitchers in there. I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota is up there during the end, but I'm gonna roll with the Guardians.
All right. I hear what you're saying, and I would love to pick Cleveland, but I'm actually gonna pick Minnesota. I really want to pick Detroit. I would love to see Detroit maintain this, but I agree with you. Every year, I feel like between April and June, there's like one or two teams that way exceed what you expect. Like last year was Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh was leading the NL Central, I think, until June last year. It shocked like everybody. And the Orioles shocked everybody last year too. But by the end of the season, the only team that sustained that was the Orioles. And eventually Pittsburgh kind of came back down to earth. That's what I kind of see with Detroit. So I'm going to take Minnesota.
Okay.
I would like to see Cleveland do it, but I don't know. They got a first-year manager. And, I mean, outside of Shane Bieber, I don't know. They brought Carlos Carrasco back. Tristan McKenzie's a decent pitcher. I don't know. Their pitching does make me a little nervous, especially if Carlos Carrasco has had a lot of injury history. And I just think it's kind of early for them. I think next year, second year under the manager is when they'll kind of start to find their stride.
Yeah.
All right, the West.
Yeah, so I'm going to go on a stretch here. And I want to say the departure of Shohei, that the Angels will take the West.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. And from seeing but this is all based on if Trout can stay healthy. Because right now I got Trout as another MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I think if he can have a big year and carry this team on his back, I think that they can do, they can take this division. Um, and I know it sounds a little weird, but
Mhm.
it, it's a tough division. With Houston being in it. Um, uh, but I'm gonna go on this. I'm gonna
Okay.
go. I'm banking on Trout playing well. Now the Rangers, they won it last year. Repeating, we all know, is a hard thing.
Yep. Especially in
Um,
baseball.
especially in baseball. So can they do the same thing again? Maybe. I mean, they look good in opening day. They're 4-2 right now. They nothing has been exposed yet to say the Rangers will not be where they were last year, this year. So yeah. But if I had to switch it up and pick somebody else besides Houston and Houston and the Rangers, I'm going Angels.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of similar to you in the sense of every year there's at least one division where you get kind of a surprise winner.
Yeah.
Like last year was the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
I think when the Giants won it in was that 22 or 21? It was like the one time in the past decade where the Dodgers didn't win their division. I think they were kind of a surprise. So I think the AL West is gonna be the surprise. I'm actually gonna go Mariners.
Okay.
I think like Texas, and maybe it's just because we know a lot of Rangers fans, and I mean, granted, they did it last year. They actually won, but it's kind of like it's hard to trust the Rangers. They always find a way to kind of mess it up.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see the end of Houston and their dynasty, if you want to consider it a dynasty.
Yeah.
I think the Mariners have been kind of sitting there, poised to take the spot. And I like what they got. I mean, you got Luis Castillo, George Kirby's a bona fide ace. I think their pitching is going to be decent. J.P. Crawford is a solid shortstop that I don't think gets talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you got Rodriguez. So Mitch Haniger he's older, but he could still crush the ball when he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go Mariners. I think Mariners are the surprise division winner in the AL West. All right, into the National League.
All right. So starting with the East, I like the Phillies.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the Phillies. I think their lineup with Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, have an ace in Zach Wheeler. I think they're going to sustain this season into the playoffs, and I think they take that division. Young. It's still early. I know they're 2-4 right now. Atlanta is always there at the top. Like there's
Yeah.
no surprise there. I mean, obviously with Acuna Jr.
Acuna.
Being their star player, and just being just in that division, just always being at the top. But yeah, I'm gonna take Atlanta.
You mean the Phillies?
I mean the Phillies. I'm sorry. Yes, the Phillies.
I
Yeah,
know
I'm
it's
gonna
hard
take
because
the
I got
Phillies.
their roster pulled up
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm actually gonna go chalk on this one. I'm taking
Okay,
Atlanta. I
okay.
mean, look at their roster. I mean, starting pitching, you got Max, Charlie, Chris, and Spencer.
Yeah,
Like those would all be aces on any other team.
for sure.
Travis Darno, again, older guy, but he's good. Ozzy Albies can turn on. Matt Olson's been great since he's gotten there. Obviously, Acuna. And they know what they're doing. They've done it for, they still have Marcelo Zuna.
I just don't trust Chris Sale. I really don't.
Okay. To
Yeah,
stay healthy.
yeah, to stay
Yeah,
healthy
that's a
and
good point.
yeah,
But again, even if you take away Chris Sale, I mean, He's still got Morton.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
yeah.
40, but I mean, he could still throw it. Strider, obviously. I know, man. Like, to me, right now, they're the closest thing that we have to like the Dodgers in the sense
Mhm.
of until they don't win the division, I can't. I'm probably not going to pick them not to.
Yeah.
So, all right, down to the NL Central, which I think is easily the hardest one to pick.
I am definitely with you there. I think this is the hardest division to pick. And this might, again, I think this is like one of those things where we're going off. Like if we, I don't know if this is really a surprise pick or like a really, you know,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna take the Cubs. I think the Cubs take
Okay.
that division. I like what they have. They have Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger. Who's the little Asian kid Suzuki in the outfield.
Mhm.
Pitching staff
They still got
is
Hendricks.
yeah, still got Hendricks. And so yeah, I'm a
They have Yan Gomes.
Yep. They got the kid from Japan, Shota, who's off to a great start. I think the
Or
game that I
there.
saw, he threw like nine Ks or something like that. Like he was really good. And so yeah, I'm gonna roll with him. I could tell you, I know they're gonna play the Dodgers soon. I think that would be a big tell, like how they could stand against the big dogs. But I'm gonna roll with the Cubs this season.
Okay. I'm surprised in the sense of like I really thought we were actually gonna differ on this one. I'm also going with the Cubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I, I'm definitely have the most trepidation with this pick. So for starters, to knock this out, I don't think the Pirates are going to sustain
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
their start. I still think the Pirates are at least a year out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I do like what the Pirates are building there.
I mean, I love
You
the
know,
Cruz kid. Like that kid,
mhm.
he's fun to watch.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I mean, he's probably not on their roster yet, but the guy they took number one overall, um, the boy out of LSU, man, I don't know. Joey Bart, I think is good. Is good. But they've had the number one pick, like what, the last like 2 out of the 3 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting there, but again, I don't think what they're doing right now is sustainable. Paul Skeens, that was the pitcher they took number one overall. So then you have the Reds. The Reds, another team that surprised a lot of people for how strong they finished last season.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie De La Cruz, super good. But the Cubs were knocking on the door all last year, and I think they have Craig Counsell now, who understands. The biggest competition is probably the Brewers, and he just came from there. So I think that knowledge kind of helps him, and I like what the Cubs got going on. So I'm also going to roll with the Cubs. I think it's close. It'll come down to the wire, but I think they'll take the NL Central and return to the postseason. That leaves us one more division.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
mean,
mean,
is there any possibility that you're?
No, there's none at
No.
all.
Okay, me
No,
neither.
no, yeah. I mean that
Yeah.
that that Ross, dude. This is essentially the Dodgers are the Yankees of this, like the old, like the the 80 into the 90 Yankees, where you just have like star power. You're just paying for players to come over, and I mean, again, we know about Shohei, we Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Who else is over there?
You got Mac Muncy,
You know, that's
Hernandez.
yeah, dude. What was the pitcher name? Go up the Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Like these. I mean, look at Like, how can
They
you
brought
not?
James Paxton in, who was great on Seattle.
Yep, Joe Kelly
Tyler
is the
Glass
stuff.
now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they
And
just
they still
have.
got Kershaw too. He must
Yeah,
be out with injury right
I
now,
think
but
he is hurt. Yeah. But I mean, they have like they're like the Avengers of baseball,
yeah,
dude. You know, it's just,
it is
it's just,
ridiculous.
it is ridiculous
Um,
of where they at, and so yeah, and that I mean, it sucks because I wish I could sit here and go and say, maybe, Arizona has a chance or the Padres have a chance. Padres was, I mean, with Tatis Jr. over there, but once Juan Soto left, I think they just, I mean, if anybody have a run to catch the Dodgers, I would probably go with the Padres. I
oh,
mean,
really? See, I would go Arizona.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, they would be the only team that I think would have like a dream. But I mean, even that, it's a long shot.
Yeah.
The
I mean, I just think.
Rockies, I mean, it's gonna be rough. Another
I
rough
mean, the
year for
only
the
reason I
Rockies.
pick the Padres because again they got Manny Machado,
Hmm.
they got Freddie Tatis Jr. like I mentioned.
Who's on their pitching staff? That's one thing I don't know.
So on their pitching staff, I
Oh, they
mean,
have
I
you
don't think.
Darvish.
Yeah, you Darvish is on there. I forgot about
Joe
him. Yeah.
Musgrove's on there.
So I mean, yeah, they have some starting power. I just don't. Again,
Oh, Dylan Cease. I forgot they had Dylan Cease.
so I think and Xander Bogaerts, who came from Boston, I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a pretty solid roster, so that's why I would go with the Padres. But again, those is again, I'm just saying if anybody had a chance, I would pick the
Yeah.
Padres. But I just see um, Dodgers run away with that division. Will they win? I don't think so, like the whole thing. But I just see them run away with that division. So, I mean, we just mentioned all of
Yeah.
these. I mean, World Series. Who you think in the World Series, American and National League?
So, in the American League World Series, I am going with the Baltimore Orioles. I guess to represent the American League in the World Series, I'm going with Baltimore.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
What? Okay, obviously, I think I know who you're gonna pick, but
you daggone straight.
Outside of that team, I mean, who else is going to the World Series out of the American League? Like, I already mentioned my thoughts on the Rangers. I mean, obviously, I have Minnesota winning the division, but I don't see them as a World Series contender. I don't see the Mariners as a World Series contender.
Yeah.
I like what the Orioles got going on.
Okay. I mean, okay, I can see that, and yes, I'm being biased because the Yankees are my team. But I'm going Yankees.
Okay.
I'm not saying that just to say it. I think yeah, we are I think this year out of all years, I just have this it's been a while since I've had this high. Watching them play, watching them be a unit. It's been fun to watch so far these first 7 games. And yes, I do hope it continues and and I'm we are in the World Series or World Series. But if I did have to have an option too, then okay, I can see Baltimore because of what happened last year and not being a fluke. Other than that, I just don't see anybody. Like I really don't see the Rangers doing anything again this year. And so yeah, I'm rolling with my boys this year. I'm rolling with the Yankees to be in a World Series. And in the West, who do you got?
So the National League, I am going to go Atlanta.
National League. I don't know why I said the West. Yeah, the National League.
Because you
Okay.
probably thought I was going to pick the Dodgers. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just reluctant to say the Dodgers because it's just too easy. Like, and I guess to back it up a little bit, there's a lot of players on Atlanta that were on the team when they won it less than 3 years ago in 2021. I like their manager. I mean, the Dodgers. The biggest thing with the Dodgers is they need everybody to stay healthy,
Yeah.
and you need everything to go. I mean, yeah, you could put that super team together, but they still got to play, and they still got to play well. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Kershaw. I mean, unfortunately, I think one of their major starting pitchers will end up with some kind of injury at some point. Shohei's had some injury issues the past few years. So, yeah, give me Atlanta. I think Atlanta will go to the World Series.
Okay, and I'm going Cubs. I'm going Yankee
Oh,
Cubs World
okay.
Series. Yeah,
Interesting.
and to your point with the Dodgers, again, a lot needs to go right. But what I think this year, no, but next year, yes, because next year Shohei will pitch, and I think that'll have when you have him pitching and hitting. I think that right now he's just a bat that's trying to swing for the fences, and just put on a show. But I think in his element of pitching and hitting, that'll make a huge difference next year for the Dodgers. So I think next year will be a big year for the Dodgers. I think this year with him just hitting, I don't think it's the year right now. But so I'm going Cubs, Yankees. I like the Cubs. I think they're going to do great in this division. I think they're going to do great in the playoffs and make it to the World Series. So, and then I'm picking Yankees to win it all. So,
I would pick Atlanta. If it was Atlanta, Baltimore, I would go with Atlanta, based solely on experience.
Okay. So, and who's your MVP
for the World Series or just the National League and American
League? The National AL MVP.
So National League, it's Mookie Betts.
Okay.
And then AL, I'm gonna go Gunnar Henderson from Baltimore.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. I want to go Trout in the American League, but also Juan Soto. I'm gonna do one of those like 1A, 1Bs. Like I think if Trout can stay healthy, then I'm going Trout to have that comeback year. And I think he's going to be up there. And I think Juan Soto, again, with this environment and him being so excited to be with the Yankees, he's making a big impact already. That I think I think it's going to be like this throughout. And so, yeah, I think he's definitely going to be up there. So, but 1A for me is I'm going Trout. I think Trout is definitely going to be out there. And then in the National League, I'm going chalk. I think I'm Shohei. I think he's just going to put up those bats. Yeah, Shohei. I think he's going to put. Yeah, I think he's going to put up. I think again, just swinging for the fences and just putting on the show. I think Shohei is again, but that's just going to be all. And I think next year when he able to pitch and hit, that I think
that's my question because he's only a DH.
Right.
Like, are you really going to give a DH the MVP? Like.
I mean, if he put on a show in LA, why not?
All right. I mean, Gunnar, he's a shortstop, so he can add like great defensive plays to him.
Yeah.
And then Mookie, I mean, solid outfielder. So I don't know. Just being a DH, I don't know. I feel like he's got to put up an insane amount of home runs. I feel like,
and I think he will. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I think he will. I really do. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, besides him, I mean, my only, and I want to say, like only other option, but I mean, if you want to, like, if I'm not picking the DH and I had to pick somebody that's going to make a big difference, then I'll probably go with somebody like Bryce Harper, that can do something.
Pick.
Yeah. But I'm going Shohei. Excuse me. Sorry.
All right. Well, I guess that was our entire MLB season preview. Kind of.
Hey, that was good.
Impromptu. Man.
Yeah. That was really good. I'm excited because again, it's such a long season that
I'm excited to check in like mid-season, like July,
and see where we at with our
the craziness.
With these right here. Yeah. So that'd be really cool. But good talking, Joey. I mean, look,
always.
Man. Look forward to coming back next week and talking about the Final Four and the
The
championship
national
game.
champion. Who it was.
We got episodes coming up of, we got the NHL playoffs coming up. We have the NBA playoffs coming up.
I'm so excited for playoff time.
Yeah,
NFL draft. There's so much about to happen.
We have the Masters coming up.
The Masters.
So yeah, we have so much to talk about. Looking forward to it. But yeah, until next time, please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Socratic Sports 22. Find us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Just listen in and hope you guys enjoy. But until next time, peace.
Peace.
It's the best show you're not watching.